Good evening and welcome back to The Last Word here on KTN News. So is Kenya facing a constitutional crisis if she does not put together a law that will operationalize the not more than 2/3 gender rule? Remember the 27th of this month, that extension of 1 year from last year, which was also another period of time that had been given by the Supreme Court, will be expiring, and by law you cannot extend an extension. So then what will happen? Well, we'll see as the days go by how this matter will be resolved. But women in politics is what we're discussing tonight. In our total poll question, we're asking you, do Kenyan women work hard enough for elective seats? And I want to read some of your views tonight so that we can hear what you think about the conversation we're having in the studio tonight. Rosil, you say, I think women like Margaret Kenyatta and Amina Mohammed have done what really women should be doing. Stephen Moreri, you say, no, they want to be given lying down. They are the majority who can even elect a female president. Fred, you say very few women really work for elective posts, even though we have 47 women reps, but I have not seen their impact. Shaban Munuva, you say, no, in fact, this is a very hard business that needs extra patience, in which most of them do not have. Isabwa, you say, no, it's just the power-hungry ones who go for them. Owa Mulungie, you say the field is so dominated by men, and they normally apply all sorts of hooliganism, making a few women to attempt. Masigatoni, you say women can be great leaders only if they are given an opportunity. Michael F. David, you say, how is gender equality bill performing generally? Abdallah Kasim, before we compare nations or gender parity, we need to note there are more females in post-conflict countries than peaceful ones. And many more of your views tonight. Victor saying, how hard should they work? Elective positions, it's all about selling policies to the electorate. They do, and then they will get elected. Thank you for your views and keep them coming tonight. With my guests tonight, we've conversed already so much, but let's talk about something we mentioned in the first half, political parties and the role in which they play to ensure that this numbers increase of women representation in politics. But then there's the thorny issue of nominations, because that's the primaries is where it all begins. Not the nominations post elections, but pre-elections. Is there a bigger role political parties can play there?
Yes, actually it is at the political party primaries that women really lose out. That is where we have lost great women who have been, you know, in the women's struggle, even nationally. And we have, it's a sad affair when it comes to political parties. And that is where we need the political goodwill of all the leaders of political parties. If women are given a fair chance, a level playing ground during the party primaries, then there's nothing that will stop women from getting these seats. And I'm worried about, you know, us going the affirmative action way always, because this also discourages the electorate from electing women, because they will always say, but they'll get the free seats, because this is what Kenyans look at them like, it's free seats. And so to encourage women to go for elective positions, political parties need to be fair, and even now to encourage women during the party primaries. Yeah. This is where we need the goodwill.
And what do you think of a proposal that has been made by some that, as you're saying, political parties need to be fair and you know, front more women, that perhaps in their strongholds, going by how politics are practiced here in Kenya? Do you agree, Marcus?
I agree totally, and that has been the position that IDEA has taken, that political parties in our country, they have a strong base that they command. For example, CORD, commands Nyanza, commands Coast, commands, and we have Jubilee Coalition commanding the Rift Valley, commanding Central and parts of Nairobi. So if, in order to increase the number of women in elective positions, we know, for example, that if Jubilee, if TNA, for example, had nominated 5 women for particular seats in their stronghold, chances are that three quarters of those women will be elected into positions. If ODM had nominated a number of women in their strongholds, chances are that a number of such women would emerge winners. So that while there's need for a law to be in place, if there is goodwill among the political parties wanting to front a number of women candidates in their positions, then we can still have a number of women being elected into positions.
Yeah.
Yes.
You say you're not very supportive of the affirmative action. Are you also of the view that it is expensive? Because one of the arguments against affirmative action, and the nominations post-elections is that it ends up being quite the bill to be able to burden, as some look at it, the taxpayers with. Is it a view you hold?
Yes, Sophia, it's expensive, but I would say it's also very discouraging to those women who have decided to come out and go the whole hog and fight on and present themselves to the electorate as many Kenyans would want. I remember getting into Parliament and looking back at the struggle that I had put in and seeing so many women getting nominated. I realized maybe there was an easier way of getting into this house. Maybe I shouldn't have gone through this too many hurdles that I went through when I could only work for a political party and I get nominated, or just make myself get known to the party leadership and get nominated. And so it's discouraging, and all of us would want an easier route.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it is the way to go for the future.
Women need to go and fight for it.
Women need to go and fight for it.
Yeah. Marcus, last year we saw the UN, the General Assembly in New York, the countries sign on to the SDGs, 17 of them in total, one of them being about gender equality. The first time we're having gender matters forming this. Is this likely to have any impact, and if yes, which one, in as far as gender parity in Kenya specifically is concerned?
You see, Kenya was present during the signing and ratification of the SDGs in New York. And Kenya decided to be bound by what it signed, and already adding to what we have in our country. So that I think that the world is watching, and very soon we shall be put to task that you promised to do A, B, C, and F, and you haven't done that. So the SDGs, and especially that which deals with gender question, it will be a basis on which Kenya will be judged by the international community.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And looking at the world as well, you mentioned before we went to break, you have the UK now having a female Prime Minister, Theresa May, and then Germany, of course, a Chancellor, Angela Merkel, and the US might very well, if they're able to trump have Hillary Clinton. So these kinds of powerful women in office, we have IMF chief as well, being a woman, Christine Lagarde, and others in business. Does this begin to change the conversation, even just from a paradigm shift for the ordinary Mwananchi? Does it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And also having Ban Ki-moon soon being replaced by a lady, it does change the debate. It does change the perception of women. And I think the feeling on the ground is that this is our time. This is our time, and this is the moment in history that women need to come out, because it's possible, it's doable. The world has gone that direction. And so it is possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I do. But I wanted to add something on affirmative action, if you allow me. That the framers of our Constitution were alive to the fact that a section of Kenya's population have continued to suffer historical injustices.
Right.
And the principle of equality states that treat the equal equally and treat the unequal equally. So that the Constitution of Kenya realizes that there's a section that must be treated unequally because they're unequal. So that the affirmative action is just a temporary measure that Kenya wants to have in place to be able to uplift the women of our country. And so that even you look at the Duale bill, and even Sajeni bill, they have a sunset clause saying that we will be able to have women have affirmative seats only to some extent in terms of time. That hopefully in the next 20 years, for example, like in the Duale bill, in 20 years' time, we can be able to come back and review the performance of women. So that I think that, and again, the element of expense. Democracy is expensive. And I think the framers of our constitution, they were aware that it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
So
and anyway, if you do not vote them in, then
you will have to
bear the cost.
Bear the cost.
Yeah.
So I think that we are running to the cost at the expense of a bigger picture. Let political parties take the burden. If CORD feels that to nominate more women is expensive, let CORD marshal the electorate. Tell them, go out and say, yes, it is expensive to have women nominated, but elect women. A stronghold, let us elect women. Like